Welcome back to the shop, guys. First of all, sorry I haven't been putting out as many videos as I used to. I've got a ton of stuff going on right now, a ton of orders I'm trying to stay on top of, plus some interesting projects outside of the knife shop that I will be keeping you guys updated on actually here in the near future. But anyways, today I wanted to talk to you guys about this new, well, it's not a super new trend anymore, but all of this copper sanmai and copper infused Damascus and all these really fancy steels that you're seeing a lot of now. And I'm using a lot of those as well. So I want to kind of talk to you guys about them a little bit, give you guys a quick rundown on maybe working with it, finishing it, and just what I think about it in general. So if you've ever been interested in using copper sanmai or any of these fancy types of steels, you're definitely going to want to see this video. So you guys know I generally make content around what I'm working on in the shop. I try to kind of make it relevant to whatever projects I have going on, so I'm not making these forced videos that you guys see a lot on YouTube. So right now I've got a ton of orders for some kind of high-end steel knives. I just finished up a couple sanmai builds, a chef knife and a camp knife. I just finished them up and I've got 3 more here on the bench that I'm working on this week. Now I'll show you really quick one I'm working on, just to give you an idea. This is my bird and trout design, and this is, you see that layer of copper through the blade there. Now before I worked on this stuff and bought any of it, I couldn't find much information on working with it, you know, whether or not it was easy or hard or heat treat or any of that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm making this video. So if you guys have ever seen a knife in that steel, you thought you wanted to work with it, then hopefully I'll answer all your questions today. Now, just for example, this is a billet from Baker Forge and Tool. I bought like 5 or 6 of these a while ago, and then I kind of threw it up on Instagram that I would take some customs using this steel. Now he does a ton of different billets, different combinations of Damascus with copper, with brass, with all kinds of really cool stuff. So go check him out if you haven't. Really good material. But this is how it looks when you get it, okay? You can see it's really rough. You can really see the texture there. So, you know, that's one kind of downfall of working with some of this stuff, is you don't get a nice clean billet like you would, like if you ordered just normal steel like that. That's nice and clean, you work with it. This has some character to it. So what I found is I like to surface grind this a little bit before I even lay out my template or my design, whatever knife I'm working on. They do not recommend you forging this material, primarily just because of how those layers are all set, and it's pretty specific. And basically this one is a high carbon steel, and then a copper, then a nickel, then a copper, then it has a Damascus core. This is called, they call this their Volcanic River sanmai, gomai, whatever you want to call it. So that's why they don't really recommend you doing any forging on it, because you can end up messing that up and you'll get copper in a place you don't necessarily want it, or you know what I'm saying, I think. But anyways, to start, you know, as far as cutting out your profile, it's just like any other steel. I cut it on the bandsaw. I don't have any problems with it. It machines easily and it heat treats easily, and that's something that I was a little bit worried about. I figured with having that copper in there, I wasn't sure if it would cause any problems during heat treat, and it's actually relatively simple, just like any other high carbon steel that you would heat treat. I do it in the even heat, and I use Parks 50 quench oil. The only thing I do differently when I heat treat that than just say a standard 1095 blade is I will quench it and then I'll go right into the plates like you've seen me do in the past, just to make sure you keep it good and straight. But heat treat's pretty simple, and no gray area or anything like that. Every knife I've heat treated has come out really good. Here's another one I'm working on right now, and you can see that this one is sanmai, and this one has an 80 CRV2 core and then a little layer of nickel, and then that's a stainless steel jacket on there. And this one I just test etched just to kind of see how it was going to look. and still needs hand sanding. And this is kind of the same deal. You heat treat this just like you would heat treat whatever the core material is, and you don't have any problems. Now, the only issue I found with using that copper San Mai, and you're not going to really be able to see it here, but you need to make sure you're spacing it out away from the edge really good when you go to cut out your design, which wastes a little bit of material. But what'll happen is if you get it too close, the copper material will split a little bit during heat treat, and you don't want any of that going on. So anyways, that's kind of the gist of that. Heat treat's pretty simple. And you know, if you've heat treated any high carbon steel, you can probably heat treat some of this Baker Forging tool San Mai. So I'm at the hand sanding stage with this one. And that's kind of why I decided to talk about this today, because that's where it gets a little bit different. I grind all my knives after heat treat, which you guys know. And that's what's funny about grinding this stuff is, as you can imagine, that copper is really soft when you're grinding it. So what I found is when you're actually trying to grind a nice crisp bevel, which this one came out pretty good. I'm still going to hand sand it, but you can see it came out, you can't really see, but it came out pretty good. When you're grinding it, you can feel when you hit that copper material and it'll want to grab your knife from you a little bit, which makes getting really crisp, clean grinds a little bit trickier. So that's another kind of aspect to where this isn't exactly suited for like a super beginner knife maker, but you don't need to feel like it's out of your league, because it's all doable. It just adds a little step of complication to it, I guess is what you would say. So like all my other Damascus blades, I take these to 220 grit on the grinder, and then I start the hand sanding process. And now for hand sanding this, I take it to about 1200, and then I'll buff it, and then I'll etch it in ferric chloride, do a coffee etch, and it normally turns out pretty good. So I'm gonna finish hand sanding this one right now. I'm gonna go through the etching process with you guys and show you how it's looking at the end of the day. All right, so I didn't show the hand sanding process with that knife, mainly because I just covered hand sanding, polishing Damasteel. It's kind of the same process. You don't have to be quite as picky, but what I did is I took it to 1200, I buffed it, and then I did a ferric chloride etch for about 20 minutes. And then what I do is I take 2000 grit sandpaper and kind of polish it almost with that, and then right into the coffee etch. Now, it's been in the coffee for, about 8 hours now. I've actually, let's see if I can show you guys. I've got 3 knives soaking right now, and I'm probably gonna leave this one in overnight, but I wanted to show you kind of what it was looking like, if you can see it. So what my goal is, you can see it looks pretty good. Obviously, the lighting's not super good. Is to get that Damascus to pop in the bottom. I'll flip the camera on and show you guys kind of what it's looking like. So as you can see, that top part is nice and dark. That nice copper and nickel layer is looking good. And the Damascus is really starting to pop good. So I am going to actually leave this in the coffee overnight. And you can see there's actually, like, if you look close, there's a little bit of mold in my coffee. You can just scoop that out and throw it out or make a fresh batch. But I use my coffee for maybe a month and then start a new batch. Let's see what else is in here. I've got a really cool little micro cleaver looking really good in that same steel. And then I've got, ooh, this one's good. Another San Mai blade in there looking really cool too. That's an 80 CRV2 core with a nickel layer. Whew, looking good. All right, so hopefully that answered a few of you guys' questions on using some of these kind of fancier steels. I know there's a kind of a big fad, and there has been for the last couple of years, on using these copper layered Damascus billets, and you can see why. They're super cool. They've been really popular. They are very, very expensive to buy, but as you can see, the process of turning a billet into a knife is not way more complicated using this stuff as it is just using a normal high carbon steel billet. So hopefully that answered a few of you guys' questions. If you have any more, drop them in the comments below. And like always, guys, thanks for watching. All right, guys, thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you learned something from it. If you did, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like this video. If you're interested in any of my knives, there's always a link in the description below how to get a hold of me. I'm really easy to contact and I'd love to work with you. So like always, guys, thanks for watching.